In the bustling city of New York, where skyscrapers kissed the clouds and dreams were both made and shattered, there was a company named Stellar Tech. It wasn't one of those flashy tech giants everyone knew about, but it had carved out its own niche in the software development industry. The CEO, a man named Robert Hayes, was known for his sharp mind and relentless drive. He had built Stellar Tech from scratch, turning it into a thriving enterprise with hundreds of employees. Despite his success, Robert prided himself on staying connected to his workforce, or so he thought. One chilly Monday morning, as Robert sipped his coffee in his corner office, he opened the weekly employee activity report sent by the IT department. These reports were usually dull, rows of data showing login times, project progress, and productivity metrics. But today, something unusual caught his eye. An employee named Maya Patel had been logging in for double shifts almost every day for the past 3 weeks. Double shifts weren't unheard of at Stellar Tech, especially during crunch times, but this pattern seemed excessive. What struck him even more was that Maya wasn't part of the team handling any major projects right now. Her workload should have been manageable. Robert leaned back in his chair, trying to recall what he knew about Maya. She had joined the company 5 years ago as a junior developer and steadily climbed the ranks to become a senior analyst. Quiet and reserved, she rarely participated in office banter or social events, but her work was impeccable. Deadlines were met without fail, and errors in her code were virtually non-existent. Still, Robert realized he didn't know much beyond her professional contributions. Was she ambitious, overworked, struggling? He frowned, feeling a twinge of guilt for not paying closer attention earlier. Curiosity got the better of him, and instead of summoning Maya to his office immediately, he decided to observe her first. That afternoon, he wandered casually toward her cubicle, pretending to check on other employees along the way. As he approached, he noticed Maya hunched over her desk, typing furiously. Her eyes darted between 2 monitors, and stacks of papers surrounded her workspace. Most people would take breaks around lunchtime, chatting with colleagues or grabbing coffee, but Maya stayed glued to her seat. Robert spotted a brown paper bag sitting untouched beside her keyboard. It looked like a sandwich wrapped hastily, probably brought from home. Yet she hadn't touched it all day. Later that evening, as employees began filing out of the building, Robert lingered near the exit, watching discreetly. Maya finally packed up her things and left, looking exhausted. Something about her demeanor tugged at him, a mix of determination and weariness that hinted at a deeper story. The next day, he asked one of the HR representatives if they had any insights into Maya's situation. To his surprise, he learned that she had recently applied for assistance under the company's food aid program. This revelation hit him hard. How could someone working such grueling hours still be struggling to afford basic necessities? Determined to understand, Robert spent the rest of the week gathering information. He reviewed Maya's personnel file, spoke with her manager, and even checked in with a few co-workers who might shed light on her personal life. But no one seemed to know much. She kept to herself, always polite but distant. By Friday evening, Robert found himself unable to focus on anything else. His mind kept returning to the image of Maya sitting alone at her desk, ignoring her lunch, while buried in work. Finally, he made a decision. He would visit her at home, not as her boss, but as someone genuinely concerned. The address listed in the company records led him to a neighborhood far removed from the polished streets of Manhattan. Row after row of weathered brick buildings stood side by side, their paint peeling and windows cracked. Streetlights flickered weakly, casting long shadows across uneven sidewalks. Robert parked his car and walked cautiously toward Maya's apartment. His heart sank as he took in the surroundings. How could anyone live here, let alone raise a family? He knocked softly on the door, unsure of what to expect. A moment later, the door creaked open, revealing Maya. She looked startled to see him standing there. "Mr. Hayes?" she stammered, clearly confused. "Is everything okay?" Robert smiled awkwardly and introduced himself again, this time emphasizing that he was visiting as a concerned individual rather than her employer. After a brief hesitation, Maya stepped aside to let him in. The interior of her home was modest but tidy, though the air carried a faint medicinal scent. In the corner of the cramped living room, a small boy lay asleep on a cot, hooked up to machines that beeped softly. Robert's breath caught in his throat. He hadn't anticipated this. Maya gestured for him to sit on the worn-out couch while she busied herself in the tiny kitchenette. "That's my son, Rohan," she explained quietly. "He has a rare genetic condition that requires constant care." Her voice wavered slightly but remained steady. She went on to describe how the treatments were expensive, how she worked extra hours just to cover the bills, and how she often skipped meals to save money. Despite the hardships, she spoke with a quiet dignity that impressed Robert deeply. As the conversation unfolded, Robert felt a wave of emotions: shock, admiration, and shame. Here was a woman who gave her all to her job, never complaining, never asking for help, yet barely keeping her head above water. He couldn't imagine the weight she carried daily. Before leaving, he promised Maya that things would change. Though he didn't have a plan yet, he vowed to do whatever it took to ease her burden. Driving back to his upscale apartment that night, he couldn't stop thinking about the stark contrast between his life and Maya's. For the first time in years, he questioned whether success truly meant what he had always believed it did. Over the weekend, Robert couldn't shake off the image of Maya's home, the frail boy on the cot, the worn furniture, the overwhelming sense of resilience amidst adversity. He realized that Maya's situation wasn't an isolated case. There were, likely, others in the company facing similar struggles silently, too proud or afraid to ask for help. He knew he had to act, not just for Maya, but for everyone who might be suffering in silence. On Monday morning, he called an emergency meeting with his senior management team. Some executives raised eyebrows when he recounted his visit to Maya's home, questioning whether it was appropriate for him to get involved personally, but Robert silenced their objections firmly, reminding them that StellarTech's mission statement emphasized valuing its people above all else. Together, they brainstormed solutions. Immediate financial assistance was arranged for Maya to cover Rohan's medical expenses. Flexible scheduling options were introduced for caregivers, allowing them to balance work and personal responsibilities more effectively. Additionally, the existing benefits package was reviewed and expanded to include provisions for unforeseen hardships. Robert insisted that these changes be implemented swiftly, refusing to let bureaucracy delay relief for those in need. By the end of the week, a comprehensive support system was in place, designed to ensure no employee would face insurmountable challenges alone. When Maya returned to work the following Monday, she was summoned to Robert's office. Nervous but curious, she entered to find not only Robert, but also several members of the HR team waiting for her. They handed her a document outlining the new initiatives tailored specifically for her situation. Tears welled up in her eyes as she read through the details: reduced workload, additional paid leave, and coverage for part of Rohan's medical expenses. For the first time in months, a sense of relief washed over her. Gratitude filled her words as she thanked them repeatedly, promising to continue giving her best to the company. Robert simply nodded, feeling a profound sense of satisfaction knowing he had done the right thing. Word spread quickly among the employees about what happened. Conversations buzzed in hallways and break rooms, with many expressing admiration for Maya's strength and Robert's empathy. Inspired by her courage, some began sharing their own struggles quietly, realizing they weren't alone. Encouraged by the positive response, Robert launched a series of town halls where employees could voice concerns and suggestions openly. Bonds grew stronger as colleagues volunteered to mentor each other, creating a culture of mutual support. Productivity soared, not because of stricter rules or incentives, but because people felt valued and heard. And in doing so, Robert discovered that true leadership wasn't about numbers or strategies. It was about seeing the person behind the title and making choices that reflected humanity. The changes at StellarTech didn't happen overnight, but the ripple effect was undeniable. Employees who had once felt invisible now found themselves noticed, not just for their work output, but as individuals with lives outside the office. Maya became an unintentional symbol of this shift. Her story spread quietly through whispered conversations in cubicles and over coffee breaks. People admired her resilience, but they also appreciated how the company had responded. For many, it was a wake-up call, a reminder that behind every name on an employee roster was a human being with struggles, dreams, and sacrifices. Robert Hayes, too, underwent a transformation. Before visiting Maya's home, he had thought of himself as a good leader. He prided himself on being approachable, on knowing his employees well enough to trust them with important tasks. But after seeing the reality of Maya's life, he realized how much he had missed. Leadership wasn't just about setting goals or reviewing performance metrics. It was about understanding the people who made those achievements possible. He started paying closer attention, not just to Maya but to everyone around him. He began walking through the office more often, stopping to chat with employees about things unrelated to work. Some were hesitant at first, unsure why the CEO was suddenly so interested in their personal lives. But over time, they opened up, sharing bits and pieces of themselves that Robert would never have known otherwise. One afternoon, while making his rounds, Robert stopped by the desk of a young graphic designer named Jake. Jake was relatively new to the company, having joined just 6 months earlier. On paper, he seemed like any other eager newcomer, enthusiastic, talented, and full of ideas. But when Robert asked how he was adjusting, Jake hesitated before admitting that he was struggling. His mother had been diagnosed with cancer, and he was juggling hospital visits with late-night project deadlines. Until that moment, no one at work had known. Robert listened intently, nodding as Jake spoke. When the conversation ended, Robert assured Jake that the company would support him, however it could. Within days, Jake was offered flexible hours and access to counseling services provided by the newly expanded benefits program. Stories like Jake's became more common as word of the initiative spread. Employees began reaching out, not always directly to Robert, but to HR representatives or team leaders who had been trained to handle such situations sensitively. The culture of silence was slowly breaking down, replaced by one of openness and mutual support. Even those who weren't facing immediate challenges felt the impact. Knowing that help was available if needed gave everyone a sense of security, a buffer against the uncertainties of life. Productivity improved not because employees were working harder, but because they were happier, less stressed, and more motivated to give their best. Maya, meanwhile, settled into her adjusted schedule with gratitude. The reduced workload allowed her to spend more time with Rohan, whose condition remained stable thanks to the additional financial assistance. She still worked diligently, ensuring her projects met deadlines and exceeded expectations. But she also began participating in team meetings more actively, offering insights and suggestions that surprised even her colleagues. It was as though lifting some of the weight off her shoulders had unleashed a side of her no one had seen before. Her confidence grew, and so did her influence within the company. As weeks turned into months, Robert noticed another unexpected benefit of the changes he had implemented. Innovation flourished. With employees feeling valued and supported, they became more willing to take risks, propose bold ideas, and collaborate across departments. Projects that might have stalled due to fear of failure or lack of resources gained momentum. Teams tackled challenges with renewed energy, driven by a shared sense of purpose. The workplace buzzed with creativity, and clients began noticing the difference. StellarTech's reputation soared, attracting new partnerships and opportunities that further solidified its position in the industry. Despite the progress, Robert knew there was still work to be done. He understood that creating a supportive environment wasn't a one-time effort but an ongoing commitment. To ensure the initiatives remained effective, he introduced quarterly check-ins where employees could provide feedback anonymously. These surveys revealed both successes and areas for improvement. For example, some employees expressed concern about burnout among middle managers, who often bore the brunt of implementing new policies while managing their own teams. In response, Robert allocated resources for leadership training and mental health workshops specifically tailored for managers. He wanted to equip them with tools to lead compassionately without sacrificing their own well-being. The emphasis on Empathy extended beyond internal operations. Clients and partners began commenting on the positive shift in StellarTech's corporate culture. One client, a nonprofit organization focused on education technology, praised the company for its human-first approach. Inspired by this feedback, Robert decided to expand the philosophy externally. He launched a community outreach program aimed at supporting local families in need. Employees were encouraged to volunteer during paid time off, whether tutoring children, organizing food drives, or mentoring aspiring tech professionals. The initiative not only strengthened ties with the community, but also deepened employees' sense of pride in their workplace. Throughout these developments, Maya continued to play a pivotal role. While she never sought the spotlight, her story inspired countless others to speak up and seek help when needed. She also became an unofficial advocate for fellow caregivers within the company, helping HR refine policies to better address their unique needs. Her quiet determination earned her respect from colleagues at all levels, including Robert. Though they rarely discussed her personal circumstances anymore, their relationship evolved into one of mutual trust and admiration. By the end of the year, StellarTech had transformed in ways Robert could hardly have imagined. What had started as a single act of kindness toward Maya had blossomed into a cultural revolution. Employees described the workplace as a second family, a place where they felt genuinely cared for. Turnover rates plummeted, and job applications surged as news of the company's progressive practices spread. Industry awards followed, recognizing StellarTech not only for its technological innovations, but also for its commitment to employee welfare. Yet for Robert, the greatest reward wasn't the accolades or the financial success. It was the knowledge that he had made a difference, not just in Maya's life, but in the lives of hundreds of others. He often reflected on the evening he had visited Maya's home, the moment that had changed everything. That night, he had gone in search of answers, hoping to understand why someone so dedicated was struggling despite their hard work. What he found instead was a lesson in humanity, a reminder that true leadership lies not in numbers or strategies, but in the connections we forge and the lives we touch along the way. As the new year approached, Robert stood at the window of his office, gazing out at the city skyline. The lights twinkled below, a testament to the countless dreams nurtured within its streets. He thought about Maya and Rohan, about Jake and his mother, about all the faces he passed in the hallway each day. Each person carried their own burdens, their own hopes. And though he couldn't solve every problem or erase every hardship, he could create a space where people felt seen, heard, and valued. That, he realized, was the essence of leadership, and it was a legacy worth building. The transformation at StellarTech continued to unfold in ways that surprised even Robert Hayes. What had started as a personal visit to Maya's home had snowballed into a cultural shift, one that touched every corner of the organization. But change, no matter how positive, is rarely without its challenges. As months passed, new issues began to surface, some anticipated, others completely unexpected. Yet each hurdle presented an opportunity for growth, and Robert approached them with the same determination that had driven him to build the company from scratch. One of the first challenges came from within the leadership team itself. While many executives supported the initiatives aimed at improving employee welfare, some remained skeptical. They worried about the financial implications of expanding benefits programs or offering flexible schedules. "We're running a business, not a charity," one senior manager remarked during a strategy meeting. The comment stung, but Robert didn't let it derail his focus. Instead, he calmly reminded the group of their mission statement: empowering people through innovation. He argued that empowerment meant more than just providing cutting-edge tools or competitive salaries. It meant creating an environment where employees could thrive both professionally and personally. To back his point, he shared data showing how the recent changes had already boosted morale, productivity, and client satisfaction. Slowly but surely, even the skeptics began to see the value in prioritizing people over profits. Meanwhile, employees themselves were navigating the adjustments brought by the new policies. For some, the transition was smooth. They embraced the flexibility and support wholeheartedly, Others, however, struggled to adapt. Take Priya, for example, a mid-level manager who had always prided herself on her ability to juggle multiple responsibilities. When the company introduced reduced workloads for caregivers, she initially resisted taking advantage of it, fearing it might make her appear less committed. It wasn't until Maya gently encouraged her to consider her own well-being that Priya finally applied for the program. At first, she felt guilty delegating tasks to her team, but over time, she realized that stepping back allowed her to recharge and lead more effectively. Her experience became a testament to the importance of self-care, inspiring others to follow suit. As the months rolled on, another layer of complexity emerged, the delicate balance between transparency and privacy. Employees appreciated the openness fostered by town halls and anonymous surveys, but some hesitated to share deeply personal struggles publicly. Robert recognized this tension and worked with HR to create safe spaces where individuals could discuss sensitive topics confidentially. Counseling sessions, peer support groups, and mentorship programs were introduced to ensure everyone had access to the help they needed without feeling exposed. These efforts paid off when Sarah, a software engineer, revealed during a private session that she had been battling severe anxiety for years. With the right resources and accommodations, she was able to manage her condition better, ultimately becoming one of the most reliable members of her team. Despite these strides, external pressures loomed large. The tech industry was fiercely competitive, and some rivals viewed StellarTech's emphasis on employee welfare as a weakness. Critics claimed the company was losing its edge by focusing too much on soft values rather than aggressive growth strategies. Rumors circulated that StellarTech might fall behind if it didn't pivot back to traditional profit-driven models. Robert heard the whispers, but refused to waver. He believed strongly that treating employees with dignity and respect would yield long-term benefits far greater than short-term gains. To prove his point, he invited key stakeholders to a showcase event highlighting the company's achievements under the new initiatives. Clients were impressed not only by the quality of work, but also by the evident enthusiasm and loyalty of the staff. The naysayers fell silent after that. Back in the office, the sense of community grew stronger with each passing day. Employees began organizing informal gatherings outside of work hours, potluck dinners, game nights, and weekend hikes. These events weren't mandated by management. They sprang organically from a desire to connect beyond the confines of deadlines and deliverables. Even introverted employees like Maya found themselves drawn into these activities, discovering friendships they never thought possible. One evening, during a company-wide picnic, Maya watched as Rohan played tag with a group of children whose parents worked at StellarTech. Tears welled up in her eyes as she realized how much her son had missed out on due to his illness, and how this newfound camaraderie was filling those gaps. Robert noticed these moments too. He attended as many social events as his schedule allowed, using them as opportunities to engage with employees in relaxed settings. During one such gathering, he struck up a conversation with Daniel, a junior developer who had recently joined the company. Daniel confided that he had almost turned down the job offer because he was unsure about relocating to New York. However, hearing stories about StellarTech's supportive culture convinced him to take the leap. Now he couldn't imagine working anywhere else. Robert smiled, realizing that the company's reputation was spreading not just through formal channels, but through word-of-mouth testimonials like Daniel's. The ripple effects of the cultural shift extended beyond individual lives and into broader societal impacts. Inspired by the success of their internal programs, StellarTech partnered with local nonprofits to expand its outreach efforts. One initiative focused on providing tech training to underserved communities, helping young adults gain skills that could lead to stable careers. Another collaborated with healthcare organizations to raise awareness about rare diseases like Rohan's condition. Maya played a key role in this project, sharing her journey openly to educate others and advocate for better resources. Her courage inspired colleagues to volunteer their time and expertise, further strengthening ties between the company and the community. Even as the company flourished, Robert remained vigilant against complacency. He knew that maintaining a culture of empathy required constant effort. To keep the momentum going, He established an annual reflection day, where employees could pause and evaluate how far they'd come while identifying areas for improvement. The event included workshops, panel discussions, and storytelling, sessions where individuals shared their experiences, both successes and setbacks. One year, Maya stood before a packed auditorium and recounted her initial hesitation to accept help from the company. Her vulnerability moved many to tears, reinforcing the idea that asking for support was a sign of strength, not weakness. Through all these developments, Robert's relationship with Maya evolved into something profound, yet understated. They rarely discussed her hardships anymore, but there was an unspoken understanding between them, a mutual respect born out of shared adversity. On the anniversary of his visit to her home, Robert sent her a simple note. "Thank you for reminding me what truly matters," Maya replied with equal brevity. "Thank you for seeing me." Those few words encapsulated everything that had changed, not just for them, but for the entire company. Looking ahead, Robert envisioned a future where StellarTech continued to lead not just in innovation, but in humanity. He dreamed of a workplace where every employee felt empowered to bring their whole selves to work, knowing they would be supported no matter what life threw their way. He imagined partnerships that bridged industries and communities, creating networks of care and collaboration. And above all, he hoped to inspire other leaders to embrace the power of empathy, proving that success wasn't measured by profit margins, but by the positive impact left on the world. As the sun set on another busy day at StellarTech, Robert sat in his office reflecting on the journey so far. The road hadn't been easy, and challenges still lay ahead. But he took comfort in knowing that he had built something enduring, a company rooted in compassion, resilience, and purpose. Outside his window, the city pulsed with energy, a reminder of the countless lives intertwined within its streets. Each light represented a story, a dream, a struggle. And though he couldn't solve every problem or ease every burden, he could create a space where people felt valued, a legacy worth striving for. The ripple effects of StellarTech's cultural transformation reached far beyond what anyone had imagined. What began as a series of initiatives aimed at supporting employees like Maya Patel evolved into something much larger, a movement that reshaped not only the company but also the lives of those connected to it. As time passed, Robert Hayes found himself reflecting on the profound impact of small actions and how they could cascade into meaningful change. Yet even with all the progress made, there were still moments of tension, uncertainty, and growth that tested the strength of this newfound culture. One such moment came when a major client expressed dissatisfaction with a project timeline. The client, a well-known tech firm, had partnered with StellarTech to develop a cutting-edge software solution. However, due to the recent policy changes allowing flexible schedules for caregivers, the team assigned to the project was operating at slightly reduced capacity. This led to delays that the client deemed unacceptable. Frustrated, they threatened to pull out unless immediate action was taken. News of the conflict spread quickly through the office, causing anxiety among employees who feared the initiatives might be rolled back under pressure. Robert called an emergency meeting with the leadership team to address the situation. Some executives argued that bending to the client's demands would send a message that StellarTech remained committed to delivering results efficiently. Others, however, urged caution, reminding everyone of the values the company now stood for. Robert listened intently before making his decision. He contacted the client directly, explaining the circumstances behind the delay and emphasizing the importance of maintaining a healthy work-life balance for employees. To his surprise, the client softened their stance after hearing the reasoning. They agreed to extend the deadline, acknowledging the value of prioritizing people over profits. It was a turning point, not just for the project but for the company's reputation as a leader in ethical business practices. Meanwhile, the internal dynamics continued to evolve in unexpected ways. Employees who had initially embraced the new policies began to push boundaries further, advocating for additional improvements. For instance, a group of junior developers proposed creating a wellness fund to cover expenses related to mental health treatments, gym memberships, or even hobbies that promoted relaxation. At first, some managers hesitated, concerned about setting unsustainable precedents, but Robert saw potential in the idea and encouraged the proposal to move forward. Within weeks, the Wellness Fund became one of the most popular initiatives, with employees eagerly sharing stories of how it had improved their quality of life. One designer named Emma revealed that using the fund to join a pottery class had helped her manage stress and reignite her creativity. Her testimony inspired others to explore similar outlets, fostering a sense of balance and joy that permeated the workplace. As these grassroots efforts gained momentum, another challenge arose: ensuring fairness across the board. Not every department benefited equally from the initiatives, leading to murmurs of discontent among certain teams. For example, the sales team often worked irregular hours and traveled frequently, making it difficult for them to take advantage of programs designed for office-based staff. Recognizing the disparity, Robert tasked HR with conducting a comprehensive review of all policies to identify gaps and propose solutions. After months of research and collaboration, tailored programs were introduced specifically for remote workers, frequent travelers, and shift-based employees. These adjustments demonstrated the company's commitment to inclusivity, earning widespread praise from staff members who had previously felt overlooked. Despite the successes, external skepticism persisted. Industry analysts questioned whether StellarTech's focus on employee welfare would hinder its ability to compete globally. Competitors launched aggressive marketing campaigns highlighting their own rapid growth and technological advancements, subtly implying that StellarTech's softer approach was holding it back. Internally, some employees began to feel uneasy, worried that they might lose ground if the company didn't adapt to the fast-paced nature of the tech world. Robert addressed these concerns head-on during an all-hands meeting. He acknowledged the competitive landscape, but reiterated his belief that sustainable success depended on investing in people. "We can innovate faster, work harder, and achieve more when we're supported," he said. "And that's exactly what we're doing here." To bolster confidence, Robert spearheaded a high-profile project showcasing StellarTech's capabilities while reinforcing its core values. The initiative involved developing a free mobile app aimed at connecting low-income families with essential resources like food banks, affordable housing options, and healthcare services. Employees from diverse departments collaborated on the project, bringing together expertise in coding, design, marketing, and community outreach. Maya played a pivotal role, drawing on her personal experiences to ensure the app addressed real-world challenges faced by struggling households. When the app launched, it received widespread acclaim, attracting attention from media outlets and social organizations alike. More importantly, it reinforced the idea that technology could be used as a force for good, a principle that resonated deeply with both employees and clients. Amidst these developments, Robert took time to reflect on the individuals whose stories had shaped the company's journey. He thought about Maya, whose quiet resilience had sparked the entire transformation. He remembered Jake, whose courage in sharing his family's struggles had opened doors for others to do the same. And he recalled countless other employees, some whose names he knew, others whose faces blended into the crowd, all contributing to the vibrant tapestry of StellarTech's culture. Each person carried their own burdens, triumphs, and dreams, yet together they formed something greater than the sum of its parts. To celebrate these contributions, Robert introduced a tradition called Moments That Matter. Once a quarter, employees were invited to submit stories about instances where they felt truly supported by the company or witnessed acts of kindness from colleagues. Selected stories were shared during town hall meetings, accompanied by heartfelt messages from Robert himself. One particularly moving account came from Lisa, a single mother who had struggled to find childcare during late-night shifts. A co-worker, named Tom, had stepped up voluntarily, offering to babysit her young daughter so Lisa could meet critical deadlines. Their bond exemplified the spirit of solidarity that now defined StellarTech, a willingness to go above and beyond for one another. Even as the company thrived, Robert remained mindful of the need for continuous improvement. He understood that cultures don't stay static. They require nurturing and adaptation to remain relevant. To this end, he established a culture council, comprising representatives from various levels of the organization. Their role was to monitor the effectiveness of existing policies, gather feedback from employees, and suggest enhancements based on emerging needs. The council quickly proved invaluable, identifying areas where communication could be strengthened or resources better allocated. For example, they recommended launching a mentorship program pairing seasoned professionals with newcomers, helping bridge generational gaps and foster knowledge sharing. The initiative proved so successful that other companies started reaching out to learn how they could replicate it. Externally, StellarTech's reputation as a trailblazer in corporate empathy continued to grow. Universities began inviting Robert to speak at conferences and seminars, eager to hear his insights on leadership and workplace culture. Students were particularly intrigued by his emphasis on humanity over hierarchy, asking questions about how to build inclusive environments in industries often criticized for being cutthroat. Robert answered candidly, sharing anecdotes from his own journey and encouraging young professionals to advocate for change wherever they went. His talks resonated deeply, inspiring many to pursue careers not just for financial gain, but for the opportunity to make a difference. Back at the office, the sense of community deepened further. Employees organized volunteer days, dedicating their skills to local causes ranging from environmental conservation to digital literacy programs. During one such event, a team installed computers and taught basic coding skills at a neighborhood youth center. Watching children light up as they created their first animations reminded everyone why they had chosen careers in technology: to empower others through innovation. These experiences strengthened bonds within the company, while reinforcing its mission to serve a greater purpose. As the years rolled on, StellarTech became synonymous with compassion and excellence, a rare combination that set it apart in an increasingly competitive market. Clients sought partnerships not just for the quality of its products, but for the integrity of its values. Investors recognized the long-term benefits of prioritizing employee welfare, noting that happy, healthy teams consistently delivered superior results. Even competitors grudgingly admitted that StellarTech's approach had merit, though few dared to emulate it fully. For Robert, the greatest reward wasn't the accolades or financial success, but the knowledge that he had built something enduring. He often thought back to the evening he visited Maya's home, the moment that changed everything. That night, he had as the years passed, StellarTech continued to grow not just in size but in spirit. The company had become a beacon of hope for many, a place where employees felt seen, heard, and valued. Yet even as Robert Hayes celebrated the successes of his cultural revolution, he couldn't ignore the subtle signs that hinted at new challenges ahead. Change, after all, was never static. It required constant vigilance and adaptation. And so while the foundation laid by Maya's story remained strong, fresh winds of uncertainty began to stir within the organization. One such challenge emerged when StellarTech acquired a smaller startup specializing in artificial intelligence. The acquisition brought with it a wave of talented engineers and developers eager to contribute to the company's mission. However, their arrival also introduced a clash of cultures. Many of these newcomers came from high-pressure environments, where long hours and relentless competition were the norm. They struggled to adjust to StellarTech's emphasis on work-life balance and collaboration, viewing it as a potential hindrance to productivity. Some openly questioned whether the company's soft approach could sustain its position in the rapidly evolving tech landscape. Tensions simmered beneath the surface, threatening to disrupt the harmony Robert had worked so hard to build. Recognizing the brewing discontent, Robert decided to address the issue head-on. He invited the entire team, both old and new, to an off-site retreat aimed at fostering understanding and unity. Over 2 days, employees participated in workshops, team-building exercises, and open discussions about their expectations and concerns. During one session, a senior engineer named Priya shared her perspective on why StellarTech's culture mattered. She recounted how the flexible policies had allowed her to care for her aging father without sacrificing her career. Her heartfelt words struck a chord with several newcomers, including Alex, a young AI specialist who had initially dismissed the initiatives as impractical. Moved by Priya's story, Alex admitted that he too had been struggling silently with burnout from previous jobs and expressed gratitude for finding a workplace that prioritized well-being. By the end of the retreat, barriers began to dissolve, replaced by a shared commitment to uphold the values that defined StellarTech. While internal tensions eased, external pressures mounted. The tech industry was undergoing a seismic shift, driven by advancements in automation and machine learning. Competitors raced to adopt cutting-edge technologies, often at the expense of ethical considerations. Rumors circulated that some companies were exploiting loopholes in labor laws to maximize output, raising questions about whether StellarTech's adherence to humane practices put it at a disadvantage. Investors grew wary, urging Robert to consider adopting more aggressive strategies to stay competitive. Faced with mounting pressure, Robert convened a meeting with his leadership team to chart a path forward. Instead of compromising their principles, they devised a bold plan to integrate AI responsibly into StellarTech's operations while ensuring transparency and accountability. This decision would not only safeguard the company's integrity, but also position it as a leader in ethical innovation. The implementation of this strategy required careful planning and collaboration. Employees across departments worked tirelessly to develop tools that enhanced efficiency, without compromising human oversight. For example, the customer support team partnered with data scientists to create an AI-powered chatbot capable of handling routine inquiries. Unlike similar systems deployed by competitors, which often frustrated users with impersonal responses, StellarTech's bot included features that allowed seamless handoffs to live agents when complex issues arose. Customers praised the initiative, noting how it balanced convenience with genuine care. Internally, the project fostered a sense of pride among employees, reinforcing the belief that technology could be wielded responsibly to benefit everyone involved. Amidst these efforts, another unexpected development unfolded, one that tested the limits of StellarTech's empathetic culture. A senior manager named David was diagnosed with terminal cancer. Known for his dedication and kindness, David had been a pillar of strength for his team. His illness sent shockwaves through the company, leaving colleagues grappling with grief and uncertainty. Recognizing the need for collective support, Robert encouraged employees to rally around David and his family. Fundraisers were organized, meals were delivered to his home, and colleagues took turns visiting him during treatment sessions. Despite the grim prognosis, David remained optimistic, thanking everyone for their unwavering love and encouragement. His resilience inspired others to confront their own fears and vulnerabilities, strengthening bonds within the company. David's journey also prompted conversations about mortality and legacy, topics rarely discussed in corporate settings. To honor his contributions, Robert proposed creating a memorial fund dedicated to supporting employees facing life-threatening illnesses or bereavement. Contributions poured in not just from within the company, but also from clients and partners. Touched by David's story, the fund became a testament to the power of compassion, reminding everyone that even in the face of loss, there was room for healing and connection. Meanwhile, Maya continued to play a pivotal role in shaping the company's direction. Her advocacy for caregivers expanded beyond internal policies to include partnerships with national organizations, advocating for better healthcare access. Through these collaborations, she discovered innovative solutions that benefited not only StellarTech employees but also countless families nationwide. One initiative involved developing a platform connecting patients with rare diseases to clinical trials and specialized treatments. When the platform launched, it received widespread acclaim, earning Maya recognition as a thought leader in the ER field. Though she shied away from the spotlight, her humility only endeared her further to her colleagues. Robert watched these developments unfold with a mix of pride and reflection. He marveled at how far the company had come since that fateful visit to Maya's home. What had started as a simple act of kindness had blossomed into a movement that transcended boundaries, personal, professional, and societal. Yet he knew that true success wasn't measured by accolades or achievements, but by the lives transformed along the way. Every employee who found solace in the Wellness Fund, every client who appreciated the company's ethical stance, Every child who smiled thanks to community outreach programs. All of them were threads woven into the fabric of Stellar Tech's legacy. To ensure this legacy endured, Robert introduced a mentorship program pairing seasoned leaders with emerging talent. The goal was to pass down not just technical skills but also the ethos of empathy and inclusivity that defined the company. Participants were encouraged to share personal stories, fostering deeper connections across generations. One memorable pairing involved Maya and a young intern named Sophia, whose passion for coding mirrored Maya's early career aspirations. Under Maya's guidance, Sophia developed a prototype app designed to streamline communication between caregivers and medical professionals. The project earned Sophia glowing reviews and solidified her determination to pursue a career rooted in purpose. As the company entered its 10th year under Robert's leadership, celebrations were planned to mark the milestone. Instead of hosting a lavish gala, Robert opted for a series of intimate gatherings where employees could reflect on their journeys together. At one such event, a video montage showcased highlights from the past decade, moments of triumph, struggle, laughter, and tears. Watching it, many were moved to tears themselves, realizing how much they had grown alongside the company. Robert concluded the evening with a speech that resonated deeply. "Success," he said, "isn't about reaching the top. It's about lifting others as we climb." Even as Stellar Tech thrived, Robert remained grounded in the lessons he had learned. He understood that no matter how advanced technology became or how sophisticated business models grew, the heart of any organization lay in its people. Empathy, he believed, was the ultimate driver of progress, a force capable of bridging divides, inspiring creativity, and nurturing resilience. As he looked out over the bustling office floor, watching employees collaborate, laugh, and dream, he felt a profound sense of fulfillment. This was what he had always envisioned, a workplace where humanity took center stage, where every individual felt empowered to shine. And so, the story of Stellar Tech continued to unfold, shaped by the countless lives intertwined within its walls. Each day brought new challenges, opportunities, and triumphs, each moment a testament to the enduring power of compassion. For Robert Hayes, the journey was far from over, but as long as he led with heart, guided by the lessons of those like Maya Patel, he knew that Stellar Tech would remain a beacon of hope, a reminder that true greatness lies not in profits or accolades, but in the connections forged and the lives touched along the way. As the years continued to unfold, Stellar Tech grew not only in size but also in its influence on the world around it. The company had become more than just a workplace. It was a community, a movement, and for many, a second family. Yet, despite all the progress made, Robert Hayes understood that growth brought with it new challenges. The larger the organization became, the harder it was to maintain the intimate connections and values that had defined its early days. He knew that staying true to their mission required constant effort and innovation. One of the most pressing issues arose when Stellar Tech expanded internationally, opening offices in countries across Europe and Asia. While this expansion marked a significant milestone, it also introduced cultural complexities that tested the limits of their inclusive philosophy. In some regions, local customs clashed with the company's emphasis on flexibility and transparency. For example, employees in Japan were hesitant to take advantage of mental health resources, fearing stigma or appearing weak. Similarly, in India, where familial obligations often dictated work-life priorities, caregivers struggled to balance traditional expectations with the newfound freedom offered by Stellar Tech's policies. These challenges highlighted the need for tailored approaches rather than a one-size-fits-all solution. To address these concerns, Robert launched a global task force dedicated to understanding regional needs and adapting policies accordingly. Each office appointed representatives who worked closely with HR to ensure that initiatives resonated with local cultures while staying aligned with the company's core values. For instance, in Japan, they introduced mindfulness workshops led by respected professionals, framing self-care as a way to enhance productivity rather than a sign of weakness. Meanwhile, in India, they partnered with local organizations to provide support networks for working parents and extended families. Over time, these efforts paid off, fostering trust and engagement among employees worldwide. Back at headquarters, another challenge emerged closer to home: burnout among mid-level managers. As the company scaled, so did the responsibilities of those tasked with leading teams. Many found themselves caught between implementing new policies and managing day-to-day operations, leaving little time for personal well-being. One such manager, Sarah, confided in Robert during a routine check-in. She admitted feeling overwhelmed by the pressure to meet targets while ensuring her team felt supported. Her honesty prompted Robert to reevaluate how leadership roles were structured within the organization. In response, he introduced a leadership resilience program aimed at equipping managers with tools to navigate stress and prevent burnout. The program included coaching sessions, peer support groups, and mandatory downtime to recharge. Additionally, Robert encouraged open dialogue about vulnerability, emphasizing that asking for help was a strength, not a weakness. To set an example, he shared his own struggles with balancing ambition and self-care during the company's formative years. His candor inspired others to speak up, creating a culture where leaders felt empowered to prioritize their well-being without guilt. Even as internal systems evolved, external pressures persisted. Competitors began mimicking StellarTech's initiatives, albeit superficially, in an attempt to attract top talent. Some went as far as branding themselves as employee-first companies, though their actions told a different story. Industry analysts questioned whether StellarTech's genuine commitment to empathy gave it a competitive edge or simply raised the bar for everyone else. Clients, too, started scrutinizing partnerships more closely, demanding proof that the company's values translated into tangible results. Robert addressed these doubts by doubling down on accountability, publishing annual impact reports detailing how employee welfare initiatives contributed to business success. The data spoke for itself. Employee retention rates soared, reducing recruitment costs significantly. Productivity metrics showed steady improvement, driven by higher morale and lower absenteeism. Most importantly, client satisfaction scores reached record highs, attributed largely to the dedication and creativity of StellarTech's workforce. Investors took notice, recognizing that prioritizing people wasn't just ethical, it was profitable. This validation strengthened Robert's resolve to continue pushing boundaries, even as naysayers predicted diminishing returns. Amidst these developments, Maya Patel remained a cornerstone of the company's evolution. Her advocacy for caregivers had transformed into a broader crusade for systemic change. Partnering with policymakers, she helped draft legislation supporting affordable healthcare and parental leave. These efforts earned her national recognition, culminating in an invitation to speak at a prestigious conference on workplace equity. Though nervous about stepping onto such a prominent stage, Maya delivered a heartfelt speech that moved audiences to tears. She reminded them that behind every statistic was a human being, a parent juggling hospital visits, a child yearning for attention, a caregiver sacrificing sleep, all deserving of dignity and support. Maya's growing prominence inspired colleagues to amplify their voices as well. Employees began participating in panels, writing articles, and engaging with media outlets to share their experiences at StellarTech. Their stories painted a vivid picture of a company that valued humanity above all else. Social media buzzed, with testimonials from current and former staff, praising the culture of compassion and innovation. Even critics softened their stance, acknowledging that StellarTech had rewritten the playbook on modern leadership. Despite the accolades, Robert remained vigilant against complacency. He understood that maintaining a culture of empathy required continuous reflection and refinement. To foster this mindset, he established a tradition called Legacy Days, where employees could pause and reflect on how their contributions shaped the company's future. These events featured storytelling sessions, art exhibits, and collaborative brainstorming exercises aimed at identifying areas for improvement. One particularly impactful session involved employees sharing letters written to their future selves, outlining aspirations and hopes for the next decade. Reading these messages reinforced the belief that every individual played a vital role in building something enduring. Externally, StellarTech's reputation as a champion of social responsibility continued to grow. Universities invited Robert to deliver keynote speeches, eager to learn how he balanced profit with purpose. Students were captivated by his emphasis on humanity over hierarchy, asking questions about navigating corporate politics and advocating for change. Robert answered honestly, drawing from his own journey and encouraging young professionals to lead with integrity. His talks resonated deeply, inspiring many to pursue careers not just for financial gain, but for the opportunity to make a difference. Within the company, the sense of community deepened further. Employees organized volunteer days, dedicating their skills to causes ranging from environmental conservation to digital literacy programs. During one such event, a team installed solar panels at a rural school, bringing sustainable energy to students who had never experienced electricity before. Watching children light up, not just literally but figuratively, reminded everyone why they had chosen careers in technology, to empower others through innovation. These experiences strengthened bonds within the company, while reinforcing its mission to serve a greater purpose. As the years rolled on, Stellar Tech became synonymous with compassion and excellence, a rare combination that set it apart in an increasingly competitive market. Clients sought partnerships not just for the quality of its products but for the integrity of its values. Investors recognized the long-term benefits of prioritizing employee welfare, noting that happy, healthy teams consistently delivered superior results. Even competitors grudgingly admitted that Stellar Tech's approach had merit, though few dared to emulate it fully. For Robert, the greatest reward wasn't the accolades or financial success, but the knowledge that he had built something enduring. He often thought back to the evening he visited Maya's home, the moment that changed everything. That night he had gone seeking answers, hoping to understand why someone so dedicated was struggling despite their hard work. What he found instead was a lesson in humanity, a reminder that true leadership lies not in numbers or strategies, but in the connections forged and the lives touched along the way. Looking ahead, Robert envisioned a future where Stellar Tech continued to lead not just in innovation but in humanity. He dreamed of a workplace where every employee felt empowered to bring their whole selves to work, knowing they would be supported no matter what life threw their way. He imagined partnerships that bridged industries and communities, creating networks of care and collaboration. And above all, he hoped to inspire other leaders to embrace the power of empathy, proving that success wasn't measured by profit margins, but by the positive impact left on the world. As the sun set on another busy day at Stellar Tech, Robert sat in his office reflecting on the journey so far. The road hadn't been easy, and challenges still lay ahead, but he took comfort in knowing that he had built something lasting, a company rooted in compassion, resilience, and purpose. Outside his window, the city pulsed with energy, a reminder of the countless lives intertwined within its streets. Each light represented a story, a dream, a struggle. As Stellar Tech entered its second decade, the company faced challenges that tested not only its resilience but also its ability to stay true to its core values. Growth brought complexity, and with it came decisions that required careful navigation. Robert Hayes knew that sustaining the culture he had worked so hard to build would demand more than just goodwill. It would require innovation, adaptability, and an unwavering commitment to the principles that defined Stellar Tech. One of the most significant tests came when the global economy experienced a downturn. Recessions were nothing new to seasoned business leaders like Robert, but this one felt different. The tech industry, once seen as immune to economic fluctuations, was hit hard by shrinking budgets and cautious investors. Competitors began cutting costs aggressively, laying off employees, freezing benefits, and scaling back on initiatives deemed non-essential. Analysts predicted that Stellar Tech would follow suit, given the mounting pressure to maintain profitability. Employees braced themselves for the worst, fearing that the programs they cherished might be sacrificed in the name of survival. But Robert refused to let fear dictate his choices. He called an emergency meeting with the leadership team to discuss their options. Some executives argued for temporary cutbacks, suggesting that reducing perks and flexible hours could help weather the storm. Others advocated for maintaining current policies, believing that doing so would preserve morale and loyalty during uncertain times. After hours of debate, Robert made his decision. No layoffs, no rollback of benefits, and no compromise on employee welfare. "We built this company on trust," he said firmly. "If we abandon our people now, we lose everything." To make this bold stance feasible, Robert implemented cost-saving measures elsewhere. Non-essential projects were paused, travel budgets were slashed, and executive bonuses were suspended indefinitely. He also introduced a voluntary program where employees could temporarily reduce their hours or take unpaid leave if they needed. Financial flexibility. To his surprise, many chose to participate, not out of desperation but because they wanted to contribute to the company's survival. This collective effort fostered a renewed sense of unity, proving that empathy flowed both ways, from employer to employee and vice versa. The recession also forced Stellar Tech to rethink how it engaged with clients. With businesses tightening their belts, contracts became harder to secure. Rather than lowering prices or overpromising deliverables, Robert emphasized value over volume. He instructed sales teams to focus on building long-term partnerships rather than chasing short-term gains. One client, a struggling startup, approached Stellar Tech seeking affordable solutions to scale their operations. Instead of offering a standard package, the team devised a customized plan that prioritized essential features while deferring advanced functionalities until the client's revenue improved. This approach earned Stellar Tech immense goodwill, turning the startup into a loyal advocate who later referred several high-profile accounts. Internally, the economic uncertainty prompted deeper conversations about financial literacy and stability. Many employees expressed concerns about managing personal finances amidst rising inflation and job market volatility. In response, HR launched a series of workshops led by financial advisors, covering topics like budgeting, debt management, and investment strategies. Maya Patel played a key role in organizing these sessions, drawing on her own experiences juggling medical expenses for Rohan. Her involvement added a layer of authenticity that resonated deeply with participants, many of whom left feeling empowered to take control of their financial futures. Despite the external turbulence, Stellar Tech continued to innovate. The company invested heavily in research and development, focusing on sustainable technologies that addressed pressing global issues. One breakthrough project involved creating energy-efficient algorithms capable of reducing server power consumption by 30%. The initiative not only lowered operational costs but also positioned Stellar Tech as a leader in green tech, a distinction that attracted environmentally conscious clients and partners. Employees took immense pride in contributing to such impactful work, reinforcing the belief that purpose-driven innovation could thrive even in challenging circumstances. Meanwhile, Robert remained acutely aware of the emotional toll the recession took on his workforce. Anxiety about job security, coupled with broader societal uncertainties, weighed heavily on many minds. To combat this, he introduced weekly, mindful moments, short virtual gatherings where employees could share thoughts, express gratitude, or simply breathe together. These sessions provided a safe space for vulnerability, helping alleviate feelings of isolation and stress. Over time, they evolved into something more profound, a ritual that reminded everyone of their shared humanity and interconnectedness. Amidst these efforts, Stellar Tech celebrated small victories that carried outsized significance. For example, when a junior developer named Liam successfully completed a coding bootcamp funded by the company's education assistance program, the entire office erupted in applause. Liam, who had joined Stellar Tech as an intern with little formal training, credited the initiative with transforming his life. His success inspired others to pursue similar opportunities, sparking a wave of professional growth across departments. Even minor milestones like completing a particularly challenging project ahead of schedule were acknowledged with heartfelt recognition. These gestures reinforced the idea that every contribution mattered, no matter how seemingly insignificant. As the recession gradually eased, Stellar Tech emerged stronger than ever. Clients praised the company's reliability during tough times, cementing trust-based relationships that endured beyond the crisis. Investors marveled at its ability to balance compassion with fiscal responsibility, proving that ethical practices weren't mutually exclusive from profitability. Most importantly, employees spoke glowingly about the support they received when they needed it most. Stories of resilience and solidarity spread far and wide, attracting top talent eager to join a workplace that truly cared. Robert often reflected on what had allowed Stellar Tech to navigate the storm so effectively. It wasn't just strategic decisions or innovative thinking. It was the foundation laid years earlier by Maya Patel's courage and his willingness to listen. That single act of visiting her home had set into motion a chain reaction that transformed not only individuals, but also the organization as a whole. Every policy, every initiative, every moment of connection stemmed from that initial spark of empathy. Even as the company thrived, Robert stayed grounded in humility. He understood that leadership wasn't about grand gestures or visionary speeches. It was about showing up consistently day after day for the people who depended on him. Whether it was stopping by someone's desk to ask how their weekend went, or attending a late-night brainstorming session to offer encouragement, he demonstrated through action that he valued his employees as human beings first and foremost. Maya, too, remained a guiding light within Stellar Tech. Though her role had expanded significantly, she never lost sight of why she started advocating for caregivers in the first place. When a colleague confided in her about struggling to care for an elderly parent, Maya didn't just point them toward resources. She accompanied them to appointments, offered advice based on her own journey, and ensured they felt supported every step of the way. Her kindness rippled outward, inspiring others to pay it forward. By the end of the decade, Stellar Tech had achieved what many thought impossible: sustained growth without compromising its soul. The company stood as proof that businesses could succeed financially while enriching lives emotionally and socially. Its story served as a blueprint for others striving to create workplaces rooted in compassion and purpose. For Robert Hayes, the journey was far from over. But as he looked around at the vibrant community he had helped build, he felt a profound sense of fulfillment. Every smile, every handshake, every tear shed in joy or sorrow reminded him why he did what he did. Success wasn't measured by numbers on a balance sheet. It was measured by the connections forged, the obstacles overcome, and the lives touched along the way. And so, Stellar Tech continued to evolve, shaped by the countless stories of those who called it home. Each day brought new challenges, opportunities, and triumphs, each moment a testament to the enduring power of empathy. For Robert Hayes, the road ahead was clear: lead with heart, honor the lessons of the past, and trust in the boundless potential of humanity. As long as he held fast to these ideals, Stellar Tech would remain a beacon of hope, a reminder that true greatness lies not in profits or accolades, but in the connections forged and the lives transformed along the way. As the final chapter of this transformative journey unfolded, Stellar Tech stood not just as a company, but as a testament to the power of empathy and resilience. The seeds planted years ago by Robert Hayes and nurtured through countless acts of kindness had grown into a towering tree, providing shade and shelter for all who sought refuge beneath it. Yet even as the organization thrived, its leaders understood that the work was never truly done. Growth demanded vigilance, humility, and an unwavering commitment to staying true to the values that defined them. One of the most profound lessons came when Maya Patel decided to step back from her role at Stellar Tech. It wasn't an easy decision. She had poured her heart and soul into the company, advocating tirelessly for caregivers and spearheading initiatives that touched thousands of lives. But with Rohan's health stabilizing and new treatments offering hope for his future, Maya felt it was time to focus on her family. Her announcement sent ripples through the office, leaving colleagues grappling with a mix of admiration and sadness. They admired her courage in prioritizing what mattered most, yet they couldn't help but feel the void her absence would leave. Robert called Maya into his office the day after she submitted her resignation letter. He didn't try to persuade her to stay. He knew better than anyone the importance of putting loved ones first. Instead, He thanked her, not just for her contributions, but for being the catalyst that changed everything. "You taught us how to see," he said simply, his voice thick with emotion. Maya smiled softly, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "And you taught me how to believe," she replied. Their exchange was brief but deeply meaningful, a reminder that some bonds transcend titles and roles. To honor Maya's legacy, Robert announced the creation of the Maya Patel Empathy Award, an annual recognition given to employees who exemplified compassion and leadership in their daily interactions. The inaugural recipient was none other than Tom, the co-worker who had once babysat Lisa's daughter so she could meet deadlines. His quiet dedication to helping others reflected the spirit of care that Maya had championed throughout her tenure. Accepting the award, Tom choked up as he spoke about how Maya's example had inspired him to pay forward the kindness he had received. Even as Stellar Tech bid farewell to one of its brightest stars, new faces arrived to carry the torch. Among them was Sophia, the young intern mentored by Maya during her early days at the company. Now a confident software engineer, Sophia brought fresh energy and ideas, blending youthful enthusiasm with a deep respect for the culture she had inherited. She quickly became a bridge between generations, fostering collaboration between seasoned veterans and eager newcomers. Her ability to listen and adapt earned her the trust of colleagues, proving that leadership wasn't confined to age or experience. Meanwhile, Robert continued to evolve as a leader, constantly seeking ways to strengthen the foundation he had built. One initiative involved expanding the company's global outreach efforts, partnering with organizations addressing systemic issues like poverty, education inequality, and climate change. Employees were encouraged to dedicate paid volunteer hours to causes close to their hearts, creating opportunities for personal growth alongside professional development. These experiences often left participants profoundly moved, reinforcing the belief that technology could be wielded as a tool for good. During one such project, a team traveled to a remote village in Africa to install internet connectivity and provide digital literacy training. Watching children learn to code for the first time filled the engineers with a sense of purpose they hadn't felt before. Back at headquarters, they shared stories of laughter, curiosity, and determination, inspiring others to get involved. Over time, these grassroots efforts blossomed into formal partnerships, amplifying Stellar Tech's impact far beyond its walls. Internally, the company maintained its focus on mental health and well-being, recognizing that emotional resilience was key to navigating an ever-changing world. Monthly workshops introduced mindfulness practices, stress management techniques, and strategies for fostering healthy relationships both at work and home. Employees embraced these resources enthusiastically, sharing tips and success stories that created a ripple effect of positivity. Even small gestures, a manager checking in on a struggling team member, a colleague offering words of encouragement, made a tangible difference in people's lives. Yet, challenges persisted. As Stellar Tech grew larger, maintaining open lines of communication became increasingly difficult. Misunderstandings occasionally arose, particularly between departments operating in silos. To address this, Robert launched a cross-functional collaboration program, pairing teams from different areas to tackle projects together. This initiative not only broke down barriers but also sparked creative solutions that might otherwise have been overlooked. For example, designers working closely with data analysts developed user-friendly interfaces that significantly improved client satisfaction scores. The company's emphasis on inclusivity extended beyond internal operations to external partnerships. Clients began approaching Stellar Tech not just for its technical expertise, but for its reputation as a socially responsible organization. One notable collaboration involved developing a mobile app for refugees, connecting them with essential services like housing, healthcare, and employment opportunities. The project required sensitivity and cultural awareness, qualities ingrained in every aspect of Stellar Tech's ethos. When the app launched, it received widespread acclaim, earning recognition from humanitarian organizations worldwide. Through all these developments, Robert remained steadfast in his belief that leadership was about service, not authority. He continued to walk the floors, engaging in conversations with employees at every level. Whether discussing career aspirations, with interns or brainstorming ideas with senior executives, he approached each interaction with genuine curiosity and respect. His accessibility fostered a culture where everyone felt empowered to voice their opinions and contribute meaningfully. As the years rolled on, StellarTech's influence reached farther than anyone could have imagined. Industry conferences featured panels highlighting its innovative approach to workplace culture, while business schools included case studies analyzing its success. Competitors scrambled to replicate its model, though few succeeded in capturing the authenticity that set StellarTech apart. Investors hailed it as a blueprint for sustainable growth, proving that prioritizing people didn't detract from profitability, it enhanced it. For Robert Hayes, the greatest reward wasn't the accolades or financial success, but the knowledge that he had built something enduring. He often thought back to the evening he visited Maya's home, the moment that changed everything. That night, he had gone, seeking answers, hoping to understand why someone so dedicated was struggling despite their hard work. What he found instead was a lesson in humanity, a reminder that true leadership lies not in numbers or strategies, but in the connections forged and the lives touched along the way. Looking ahead, Robert envisioned a future where StellarTech continued to lead not just in innovation but in humanity. He dreamed of a workplace where every employee felt empowered to bring their whole selves to work, knowing they would be supported no matter what life threw their way. He imagined partnerships that bridged industries and communities, creating networks of care and collaboration. And above all, he hoped to inspire other leaders to embrace the power of empathy, proving that success wasn't measured by profit margins, but by the positive impact left on the world. As the sun set on another busy day at StellarTech, Robert sat in his office reflecting on the journey so far. The road hadn't been easy, and challenges still lay ahead. But he took comfort in knowing that he had built something lasting, a company rooted in compassion, resilience, and purpose. Outside his window, the city pulsed with energy, a reminder of the countless lives intertwined within its streets. Each light represented a story, a dream, a struggle. And though he couldn't solve every problem or ease every burden, he could create a space where people felt valued, a legacy worth striving for.